Have you ever paused to wonder why certain relationships in your life feel like a heavy burden instead of a source of joy? Why some connections seem to drain your spirit rather than uplift it? Family, the bond we cherish as unbreakable, can at times be the very source of our deepest wounds. Yet, in the midst of this paradox, a question arises: could there be a divine purpose even in the heartbreak caused by those we hold dearest? God's ways are mysterious, far beyond our comprehension. His wisdom operates on a plane we cannot fully grasp, yet it always works for our ultimate good. When a family member becomes the source of pain, criticism, or discouragement, it may feel as though the very foundation of your life is crumbling. But my friend, what if God is not allowing this to destroy you, but rather to protect and elevate you? Could it be that His hand is shielding you from harm in ways you cannot yet see? Consider the life of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and left to fend for himself in a foreign land. To the casual observer, his story might seem like one of abandonment and despair. But behind the scenes, God was orchestrating a plan far greater than Joseph or his brothers could imagine. Each betrayal, every setback, was a step toward his ultimate destiny. What appeared to be rejection was, in truth, divine redirection. Have you ever thought that perhaps the tension you feel, the unkind words spoken against you, or the lack of support from someone you love might be God's way of redirecting your focus? Maybe He is placing a hedge of protection around your life to shield you from harm that you cannot yet perceive. It's easy to focus on the pain, but the challenge lies in trusting the plan, believing that God sees the full picture, even when we see only fragments. Life is hard, the victor is merit, and yet here is a proof. He wishes merit for merit. Sometimes, God removes people from your life not to punish you, but to fulfill His promise to you. A relationship that constantly undermines your self-worth or questions your purpose is not a relationship that aligns with God's will for your life. He created you with a purpose, a unique calling that no one else can fulfill. Why then would He allow you to be consumed by relationships that threaten to derail that purpose? He has nothing to prove. He truly is. Peculiar situations like these generate a certain level of unrest that threaten to derail that purpose. Perhaps the very person who has become a thorn in your side is the one God is working to protect you from. Now imagine a parent shielding their child from a dangerous path. The child may cry, resist, or feel abandoned in the moment, but the parent's intention is not to harm, it is to save. In much the same way, God's protection often feels like rejection, but His love is unfailing, His timing perfect, and His ways always just. Could it be that God is whispering to your heart even now, saying, "Trust me, I am removing what you do not need to make room for what I have prepared. You see how it is, you really can trust me." In much the same way, God's protection often feels like rejection. But if you remove what you do not need to make room for what I have prepared, you will see how incredibly rich your life becomes. Could it be that God is whispering to your heart, even now, saying, "Trust me, I am removing what you do not need to make room for what..." In moments of confusion and heartache, the temptation to question God is strong. Why would He allow this pain? Why wouldn't He mend the relationship instead of letting it unravel? These are human questions, born of our limited understanding. But the truth is, God often uses brokenness to draw us closer to Him. The void left by others becomes the space He fills with His presence, His guidance, and His peace. Take a moment to reflect. Are there relationships in your life that feel like chains, binding you to discouragement, despair, or doubt? Have you been asking God why, when perhaps the better question is, what are you teaching me through this? What if God is not only protecting you, but also refining you, preparing you for something greater than you could ever imagine? How do you find you? The path God lays before you may not be easy, but it is always purposeful. The pain you endure is not wasted. It is woven into a tapestry of divine design. Each trial, every tear, is a thread that contributes to the beauty of the final masterpiece. Trust that even when you cannot see it, God is working for your good. God is working for your good. Now, let us journey deeper into this revelation. Let us uncover the signs that reveal God's protection in your life, even in the most unexpected places. Here are the 6 signs God is protecting you. From a family member who brings you down. From a son who gets you down too often. From the complaining voice in your mind. These signs are not random. They are intentional moves by a loving and protective God. Pay attention to them, and trust that His plans for you are always for your good. Even when it hurts, He is working to lead you to a place of freedom, purpose, and peace. 1. Your peace feels restored when you distance yourself. Peace is one of the most profound gifts God gives to His children. It is not the fleeting peace the world offers, but a deep and abiding stillness that surpasses all understanding. When you begin to feel this peace, after distancing yourself from a family member, it's a sign that God is at work, shielding you from the turmoil that person may bring. This peace is not a coincidence. It is a protective measure, a gift from a loving Father who desires wholeness for your life. Think about the storms Jesus calmed on the sea. The disciples were terrified, believing they were about to perish. Yet, with just a word, He brought the raging winds and waves to a complete halt. This is the same peace God offers to you. When someone in your life continuously stirs up storms of conflict, doubt, or discouragement, He steps in to calm your spirit. He may not immediately change the person or the situation, but He changes your environment by creating space for His peace to dwell. Reflect on how peace feels when it returns. It's not just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of God. You might find that your thoughts become clearer, your sleep more restful, and your heart less burdened. This is God gently whispering, "I am here. I am guarding your heart and mind. Trust me." If this peace comes only after you've taken a step back from a family member, it's a powerful indication that God is actively protecting you. Distance doesn't always mean permanent separation, but it often provides the clarity needed to assess a relationship's impact. When we are too close to a toxic situation, it can cloud our judgment and distort our perspective. Stepping away gives God the space to work on your heart and theirs. It allows you to discern whether the relationship is one that aligns with His will, or one that threatens your spiritual well-being. In moments of peace, lean into prayer. Ask God to reveal His plan for the relationship. Seek His wisdom, and trust that He is working for your good. Remember the words of Psalm 34:14. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Sometimes, pursuing peace means letting go of what disrupts it, even if that something or someone is close to you. This is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of obedience. For those struggling to step back, know that God sees your heartache. He understands the weight of your decision and the emotional ties that make it difficult. But His promise remains. He will never leave you or forsake you. He will walk with you through the pain of distance, replacing the emptiness with His love and assurance. Trust Him to fill the void with His presence, knowing that His plans for you are to prosper and not to harm you. 2. Their words no longer hold power over you. Words have immense power. Proverbs 18:21 tells us, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Words can uplift and encourage, but they can also wound deeply and leave scars that linger for years. When a family member's words once held the power to bring you down, yet now feel like a distant echo, it's a clear sign that God is intervening in your life. He is breaking the chains of negativity and freeing you from the control their words once had over your mind and spirit. This change doesn't happen by accident. It's the work of God's Spirit, who shields your heart and renews your mind. Think of Ephesians 6:16, where we are instructed to take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Hurtful words are like flaming arrows aimed at your self-worth and confidence. But when God steps in, He equips you with the strength to deflect these attacks and stand firm in His truth. As their words lose their sting, you begin to realize something extraordinary. Your identity is not defined by what others say about you, but by what God says about you. You are His child, fearfully and wonderfully made, loved beyond measure. The opinions of others pale in comparison to the Creator's declaration over your life. This shift in perspective is liberating. It's God's way of protecting you from further harm and reminding you of your true worth. Have you ever noticed how negativity often thrives on your reaction? When someone criticizes or belittles you, their power comes from how deeply you internalize their words. But when you stop reacting, when their words no longer shake your confidence, they lose the ability to control you. This is not your strength alone. It's God's power at work within you. It's His armor shielding you from harm and His truth dismantling the lies spoken against you. This doesn't mean the hurtful words will stop altogether, but it does mean they no longer define you. You'll find that instead of replaying those words in your mind, you focus more on God's promises. His word becomes the foundation upon which you stand. Verses like Isaiah 54:17 take on new meaning. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is God's assurance that He is fighting for you, silencing the voices that seek to tear you down. Over time, you may even feel compassion for the person who once hurt you with their words. Hurt people often hurt others, and their negativity may stem from their own pain or insecurities. While this doesn't excuse their behavior, it allows you to release the bitterness and entrust them to God. Forgiveness becomes possible, not because they deserve it, but because God has freed you from the weight of their words. As you reflect on this sign, let it remind you of God's constant protection. He is not only shielding you from harm, but also transforming you from within. The freedom you feel is a testament to His grace and power. Trust in His work, knowing that He will continue to protect, guide, and strengthen you in the face of adversity. 3. When doors seem to close around the influence of a family member, it's often a sign that God is working behind the scenes to protect you. These closed doors may manifest as fewer opportunities to interact, strained communication, or even physical distance. At first it may feel painful or confusing, especially when the person is a close family member. But what if these closed doors are not coincidences, but divine interventions? God knows the depths of every heart. He sees motives, intentions, and actions that may be hidden from us. While you might only see the surface of a relationship, God sees its impact on your spiritual, emotional, and mental well-being. His wisdom surpasses ours, and He often intervenes in ways that we may not immediately understand. A closed door is not necessarily a rejection. It is God's way of redirecting your path towards safety, peace, and His divine plan for your life. Consider the story of Noah. When God instructed him to build the ark, there must have been immense emotional difficulty as he distanced himself from those who mocked and ridiculed him. Yet when the time came, God Himself shut the door of the ark, sealing Noah and his family inside and protecting them from the flood. In the same way, God may close doors in your life to protect you from emotional floods caused by relationships that drain your strength and peace. A closed door can also be an opportunity for reflection. It allows you to step back and assess the relationship without the emotional cloud of constant interaction. Ask yourself, has this relationship been nurturing my spirit, or has it been pulling me away from God's purpose for my life? Is this person encouraging me to grow, or are they sowing seeds of doubt and discouragement? These moments of clarity often reveal why God has intervened to create distance. Sometimes closed doors come in the form of circumstances beyond our control. Perhaps the family member moves away, becomes preoccupied with other matters, or simply stops reaching out. At first, this might feel like rejection, but it's crucial to see it as protection. God is actively working to remove influences that do not align with His plan for your life. This is not a punishment, it's an act of love from a Father who desires the best for you. In these moments, lean into prayer and trust God's timing. Isaiah 22:2 says, "When He opens a door, no one can close it, and when He closes it, no one can open it." Trust that the doors He closes are for your protection, and that He is leading you to doors that open to blessings, growth, and peace. 4. You begin to see their true intentions. When God begins to protect you from a family member, one of the most profound signs is a sudden clarity about their true intentions. Relationships, especially with family, are built on trust and love. But sometimes we can be blind to patterns of manipulation, jealousy, or toxicity because of the deep bonds we share. When you start to see these behaviors for what they are, it's not your imagination, it's God revealing the truth to you. This revelation often comes gradually. You might notice subtle patterns that once seemed harmless but now appear as harmful. For example, a family member might habitually undermine your confidence, dismiss your achievements, or use guilt to control you. These behaviors, while painful, often go unnoticed because of the love and loyalty you feel. But when God begins to remove the scales from your eyes, He allows you to see the relationship in its entirety, the good, the bad, and the destructive. The Bible speaks about the importance of wisdom and discernment. Proverbs 2:6 says, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from His mouth come knowledge and understanding." When God reveals someone's true intentions, it's an act of wisdom bestowed upon you. He is equipping you with the knowledge you need to make decisions that align with His will for your life. This clarity is a gift, even if it feels painful at first. Understanding someone's true intentions doesn't mean you must immediately cut them off. Instead, it's an invitation to approach the relationship with wisdom and boundaries. God does not call us to hatred or vengeance, but He does call us to guard our hearts. Proverbs 4:23 reminds us, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Recognizing harmful intentions allows you to set boundaries that protect your peace and well-being. This revelation is also an opportunity for growth. It challenges you to reflect on how you've allowed this person's influence to shape your thoughts and actions. Have you compromised your values to please them? Have you doubted yourself because of their words or actions? God is showing you the truth, not to condemn you, but to free you. He is calling you to step into the identity He has given you, one of strength, confidence, and purpose. As you come to terms with this newfound clarity, you might wrestle with feelings of betrayal, sadness, or anger. These emotions are natural, but they are also an invitation to lean into God's grace. He is not only revealing the truth about others, but also drawing you closer to Himself. Trust that His intention is not to hurt you, but to protect and refine you. In time, this clarity may even lead to compassion. Seeing someone's true intentions often reveals their own struggles, insecurities, or unhealed wounds. While this doesn't excuse their behavior, it can soften your heart toward them. You may find yourself praying for their healing even as you maintain the boundaries God has led you to establish. Remember, God is the ultimate revealer of truth. When He unveils someone's intentions, it's not to harm you, but to protect you and guide you toward relationships that align with His purpose for your life. Trust Him in this process. knowing that His wisdom and love are always for your good. 5. You're surrounded by new, uplifting relationships. When God begins to protect you from a family member who brings you down, one of the clearest signs of His intervention is the arrival of new, uplifting relationships in your life. These relationships are not accidental or coincidental. They are a deliberate provision from God to remind you of His love, care, and purpose for you. When a toxic family member has drained your spirit and left you feeling unsupported, God steps in and fills the gap with people who nurture, encourage, and uplift you. These new relationships often come at a time when you feel most vulnerable, when the sting of distancing yourself from a family member is fresh, and the emotional wounds are raw. In these moments, God reveals His faithfulness by surrounding you with individuals who speak life into your heart. They may not have known the extent of your struggles, but their presence feels divinely timed, as if God Himself sent them to walk alongside you. God's design for relationships is rooted in mutual love, encouragement, and growth. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 emphasizes the importance of this, saying, "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up." Toxic relationships often do the opposite. They push you down instead of lifting you up. But uplifting relationships reflect God's heart for you, offering support when you stumble and celebrating with you when you rise. As these relationships begin to form, you may notice a sense of ease and authenticity that was missing in your previous interactions. There is no longer a need to tread carefully, second-guess your words, or anticipate criticism. Instead, these new connections bring peace and joy. You feel safe to be your true self, knowing you are accepted and valued without pretense. This is a reflection of God's unconditional love for you, manifested through others. In many cases, the people God brings into your life during this season serve as a source of wisdom and guidance. They might be mentors who inspire you with their faith and life experiences, or friends who walk with you through the challenges of everyday life. These individuals act as vessels of God's grace, reminding you that you are never alone. Proverbs 27:17 speaks to this dynamic. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. These relationships not only provide comfort, but also help you grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. The shift from toxic to uplifting relationships can also be a confirmation that you made the right decision in distancing yourself from negativity. God uses these new connections to show you what healthy, God-honoring relationships look like. You begin to understand that His intention for your relationships is to reflect His love and to build you up, not to tear you down. These connections become a living testimony to His faithfulness and provision in your life. As these relationships flourish, they often lead to opportunities for you to give back. Uplifting relationships are reciprocal, and the encouragement you receive inspires you to encourage others in return. This dynamic creates a cycle of positivity and growth, reflecting God's design for community. You realize that just as others have been sent to bless you, you are called to be a blessing in their lives as well. This shift in perspective helps you to see God's larger plan at work, not only in your life but also in the lives of those around you. However, this transition is not always without challenges. You may struggle with feelings of guilt or sadness over the family member you have distanced yourself from. It's natural to mourn the loss of what you hope the relationship could be. But it's important to remember that God's plans are always for your good, even when they involve painful decisions. Romans 8:28 assures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." The new relationships in your life are evidence of His commitment to that promise. As you grow into these new connections, take time to nurture them with intentionality and gratitude. Building strong, God-centered relationships requires effort and care. Be present, be supportive, and be willing to invest in the people God has placed in your life. These relationships are a gift, and like any gift, they are meant to be cherished and appreciated. It's also essential to guard against the temptation to hold on to bitterness or resentment toward the family member you've distanced from. God's provision of uplifting relationships is a reminder of His grace, and He calls you to extend that grace to others, even those who have hurt you. Forgiveness does not mean allowing toxicity back into your life, but it does mean releasing the burden of anger and trusting God to handle the situation in His perfect way. Through these new relationships, God is teaching you about His love, His provision, and His desire for your life to be filled with peace and joy. The people He places in your life during this time are not just a comfort, they are a reflection of His heart for you. They remind you that you are never alone and that God's plans for your relationships are always rooted in His goodness and faithfulness. So embrace these relationships with open arms and an open heart. Let them remind you of God's love and His constant presence in your life. Trust that He is leading you toward a future filled with hope, purpose, and peace, surrounded by people who reflect His light and help you become the person He created you to be. These relationships are not just a sign of His protection, they are a glimpse of His kingdom here on earth, a beautiful reminder of His unfailing love and care for His children. 6. You feel a stronger pull toward your purpose. One of the most remarkable signs that God is protecting you from a family member who brings you down is a renewed and undeniable pull toward your purpose. This shift doesn't happen by accident, it is the result of God removing distractions and toxic influences that cloud your vision and hinder your progress. When God shields you from relationships that drain your spirit, He redirects your energy and focus toward the unique calling He has placed on your life. One of the most remarkable signs that God is protecting you from a family member who brings you down is a renewed and undeniable pull toward your purpose. This shift doesn't happen by accident. It is the result of God removing distractions and toxic influences that cloud your vision and hinder your progress. When God shields you from relationships that drain your spirit, He redirects your energy and focus toward the unique calling He has placed on your life. Before we can fully understand how this pull toward purpose manifests, we must acknowledge its foundation: your identity in Christ. Toxic relationships, especially with family members, have a way of distorting your sense of self. Hurtful words and actions can lead you to question your worth, abilities, and direction. But as God intervenes, He begins to remind you of who you are in Him. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139:14, created with a divine purpose that no one else can fulfill. This renewed identity is the cornerstone of your pull toward purpose. When you begin to see yourself through God's eyes, loved, chosen, and equipped, you start to realize that you are not defined by the opinions or actions of others. This clarity allows you to let go of the chains of negativity and embrace the freedom to pursue God's calling on your life, and to find the meaning of life through a narrow framework of personal responsibility. Toxic relationships often create noise in your life. The constant conflict, criticism, or manipulation consumes your mental and emotional energy, leaving little room for the clarity needed to pursue your goals. But when God removes this influence, you'll notice a profound shift. The mental fog lifts, and suddenly you can see the path ahead more clearly. This clarity is not accidental. God is intentionally clearing the way for you to focus on what truly matters. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." When He shields you from the noise of negativity, He is establishing your steps, guiding you toward the plans He has designed uniquely for you. Have you ever felt a dream reignite in your heart after years of dormancy? This is often a sign that God is pulling you toward your purpose. Toxic relationships can have a stifling effect on your dreams, making you feel as though your aspirations are unattainable or unworthy. But as God protects you and restores your confidence, those dreams resurface, leaving you fresh with fresh possibilities. And this is why the word of the Lord spoke to you. This pull may feel like a whisper at first, a gentle nudge reminding you of the passions and talents God placed in you long ago. As you lean into His presence and guidance, this whisper grows louder, becoming a clear and undeniable call to action. This is God's way of reminding you that His plans for you have never changed, even if circumstances try to derail them. Another way this pull manifests is through divine alignment. When you start moving toward your purpose, you may notice opportunities appearing seemingly out of nowhere. These are not coincidences. They are orchestrated by God. He is opening doors that no one can shut, Revelation 3:8, and providing resources, connections, and encouragement to help you succeed. These opportunities often feel like confirmation that you're on the right path. They may come in the form of a job opportunity, a chance meeting with someone who inspires you, or an idea that sparks immediate action. Pay attention to these moments, as they are God's way of affirming your direction and equipping you for the journey ahead. Pursuing your purpose is not always easy. It requires faith, determination, and resilience, especially when you are overcoming the wounds left by toxic relationships. But as God protects you and pulls you toward your purpose, He also strengthens you for the journey. Isaiah 40:31 assures us, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." This renewed strength is a direct result of God's work in your life. As you distance yourself from negativity, you'll find that your energy and motivation are no longer depleted by unnecessary conflict. Instead, they are channeled towards fulfilling the calling God has placed on your heart. This strength allows you to persevere through challenges, trusting that God's grace is sufficient for every step of the way. The pull toward purpose is not just about external achievements. It is deeply rooted in your relationship with God. As He removes toxic influences, you'll notice a deeper intimacy with Him. The time and energy once consumed by negativity are now redirected toward prayer, worship, and seeking His guidance. I thank you for the moderation that seems God requires from your impatience today. I thank you for the improvement you bring to the world. I thank you for the improvement you bring to the world. This spiritual growth is transformative. You begin to see your purpose not as a checklist of goals, but as a journey of faith and obedience. You realize that every step you take toward your calling is an act of worship, a way to glorify God and align your life with His will. This deeper connection with God becomes your anchor, sustaining you through the highs and lows of the journey. One of the most beautiful aspects of this pull toward purpose is its ripple effect. Your purpose is never just about you. It is designed to impact others. As you step into your calling, you become a vessel for God's work, a light in the darkness for those around you. Matthew 5:16 encourages us, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This impact might manifest in small, everyday actions or grand, life-changing initiatives. It could be through a kind word, a creative project, or a ministry that touches countless lives. Whatever form it takes, your obedience to God's call has the power to inspire and uplift others, bringing glory to Him and fulfilling your divine purpose. As you feel the pull toward your purpose, it's natural to experience moments of fear and doubt. You might question whether you're capable or worthy of fulfilling such a calling. But remember, God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. 2 Timothy 1:7 reminds us, "For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline." God's protection and guidance are your assurance that you are not walking this path alone. He is with you every step of the way, providing strength, wisdom, and courage to overcome any obstacle. Trust in His promises and let His power work through your weaknesses. At the heart of this pull toward purpose is a desire to fulfill God's will for your life. This is the ultimate reward, not worldly success, but the joy of knowing you are walking in obedience to your Creator. As you pursue your purpose, you'll find a deep sense of fulfillment and peace that can only come from aligning your life with God's plan. This journey may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Trust that God's protection and guidance are leading you exactly where you need to be. As you move forward, remember that every step is an act of faith, a testament to God's love and sovereignty in your life. God has brought you into His presence for a reason. Embrace this pull toward your purpose with confidence and gratitude. Know that God has chosen you for a unique and powerful calling, and He will be faithful to complete the good work He has begun in you. Philippians 1:6. Move forward boldly, trusting that His plans for you are greater than you could ever imagine. And be brave, greater than hope, and reach the fullness of your success, or greater than you could ever imagine. As we come to the conclusion of this journey, let us take a moment to reflect deeply on the profound ways God works in our lives, especially when it comes to relationships that challenge us. Self-consciousness, self-managing behaviors, controlling ourselves. Each of the signs we've explored, the restoration of peace, the diminishing power of harmful words, the closing of toxic doors, the revelation of true intentions, the blessing of uplifting relationships, and the pull toward your divine purpose, points to one undeniable truth: God's love for you is unwavering, and His protection is intentional. In reality, God's love for you is unwavering, and His protection is intentional. Life's greatest challenges often come from those closest to us. Family relationships, by their very nature, carry immense emotional weight. When these connections become sources of pain, discouragement, or toxicity, it can feel as though the foundation of our world is being shaken. Yet even in these moments of turmoil, God is at work. His protection is not always loud or obvious. It is often subtle and quiet, but it is always present. And sometimes His only response is people. The signs we've discussed are His way of showing you that He sees your struggles, understands your pain, and is actively guiding you toward healing and restoration. One of the greatest blessings of God's protection is the restoration of your inner peace. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of God's stillness in your heart. When you distance yourself from a toxic family member and begin to feel that peace return, it is a reminder of God's hand at work. He is drawing you closer to Him, creating space for His presence to fill the void left by negativity. This peace is a gift, a sign that you are walking in alignment with His will, and a reassurance that He is guarding your heart and mind. The diminishing power of harmful words is another profound sign of His protection. Words can wound deeply, but God's truth is more powerful than any human criticism. As you grow in your relationship with Him, you begin to see yourself through His eyes, loved, chosen, and worthy. The words that once tore you down lose their grip, and in their place, God's promises take root. This transformation is not by your strength alone, but by His Spirit working within you, reminding you of your true identity in Him. When doors close around toxic relationships, it can feel confusing or even painful. But these closed doors are often God's way of redirecting you to a better path. He sees what you cannot and knows what you do not. Trusting His plan, even when it involves letting go, is an act of faith that leads to freedom. Every door He closes is an opportunity for Him to open another, one that leads to growth, joy, and fulfillment. Respect my Father's plan, even when it leads to growth, joy, and fulfillment. The revelation of true intentions can be one of the most difficult aspects of this journey. Seeing someone's motives clearly, especially when it involves a family member, can be painful. But this clarity is a gift from God. It allows you to make decisions with wisdom and discernment, guarding your heart while remaining compassionate. God's light exposes the truth not to hurt you, but to protect you, guiding you toward relationships that reflect His love and goodness. The blessing of uplifting relationships is perhaps one of the most tangible signs of God's care. When He removes toxic influences, He doesn't leave you isolated. Instead, He surrounds you with people who encourage, support, and inspire you. These relationships are a reflection of His love, a reminder that you are never alone, and a testament to His faithfulness. Through these connections, He provides strength, wisdom, and companionship, helping you to grow and thrive. Finally, the pull toward your divine purpose is a clear indication that God is at work in your life. Toxic relationships often distract and drain you, but as God shields you, you begin to feel a renewed sense of direction and motivation. The dreams that once seemed out of reach resurface, and new opportunities align with your calling. This is not a coincidence. It is God paving the way for you to fulfill the unique purpose He has designed for you. As you walk in obedience to His will, you find joy, peace, and fulfillment that only come from living a life aligned with His plan. Through all these signs, one truth remains constant. God is faithful. He sees every tear, hears every prayer, and knows every unspoken pain. His protection is not always easy to understand, and it often requires letting go of what feels familiar or comfortable. But His ways are higher than ours, and His plans are always for our good. Trusting Him means believing that He is working all things together for your benefit, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. As we conclude, I encourage you to take these signs to heart. Reflect on how God has been working in your life, even in the midst of challenges. Trust that His protection is a sign of His love and His commitment to your well-being. Surrender your pain, your questions, and your fears to Him, knowing that He is a good Father who desires the best for His children. Surrender yourself to the Lord's healing hand. Surrender your pain, your questions, and your fears to Him, knowing that He is. Remember, your story is far from over. God is writing a new chapter in your life, one filled with hope, joy, and purpose. Every step you take toward healing and growth is a step toward the future He has planned for you. Walk boldly in His protection, knowing that He is with you every step of the way. Let your life be a testimony to His faithfulness, a reflection of His love, and a beacon of hope for others who may be walking a similar path. Take courage, for the God who protects you is the same God who restores, strengthens, and uplifts. Trust Him and step into the fullness of the life He has prepared for you. Your best days are ahead, and His plans for you are greater than anything you could ever imagine.